Reading Terry Pratchett's Discworld in whatever order I gosh darn well feel like doing. Sue me.
Oh, he's technically Mexican and three-fourths American, but for 3 generations he's got that nationality. Great-great-grandpa headed south, whose kids had kids then turned around. It's not what the show's about, but it's why he's Mexican technically.
It helps that he was raised in New Mexico, lived in Guadalajara for 2 years, speaks fluent Spanish with a bachelor's degree in language and taquito.
I've read a good chunk of Discworld now, and I like it. They're good books. Terry Pratchett created a comedic fantasy world setting thing where he could write a bunch of books. And oh boy, he wrote a lot of them. They are very entertaining, satirical critiques on the fantasy genre as a whole. But mostly they're just a good time. But because there's so many of them, the internet is constantly arguing about which ones you should read first. And I don't give a hoot. I don't let other people tell me what to do, so I just read whatever ones I felt like reading. And I, like a maniac, decided to start with the first book he published in the series, The Color of Magic. And I gotta say, it's not the best place to start. I enjoyed reading it, but it's definitely not his best work. It's not even really a book. It's kind of just 3 short stories duct taped together that have the same characters in them. I mean, yeah, technically that's a story, but like there's no like overarching theme to any of it. It's just a bunch of silly stuff that he wanted to tell. So it's good, it's funny, but like it's like nothing to write home about. Terry Pratchett's Discworld is a whimsical place that doesn't take itself too seriously, which leads to some funny story times. It's ridiculous. The world is flat. It's a circle disc. That's why it's called Discworld, and that disc is being held up on the backs of 4 giant elephants. They're big boys, and those 4 elephants are standing on the back of a giant flying turtle named Artuin that flies through space. Now, that sounds ridiculous because it is, but that's not the story. That's just the setting. So while the setting really doesn't take itself seriously, where Terry Pratchett really excels is in his characters. He's able to write characters that are extremely funny, but also extremely real. Like you can really relate to these guys, and I want to be friends with them. So the wacky hijinks might be a selling point for you, and that's okay, but it also might be a deterrent. But like, don't let it deter you from reading Terry Pratchett, because there are plenty of books in the series that are well worth it for just how well the characters are written. Just not this one. Don't start with The Color of Magic. I should have listened to all those people who are telling me what to do. And if you're like me and you don't like being told what to do, you can go ahead and read The Color of Magic first if you want, but just know that it gets better. It's not bad. It's not a bad book. It's not the best. This first book really leans into the silly, wacky hijinks stuff, which was more of like a critique and satire on the fantasy genre than it was like trying to tell a story by itself, which Terry Pratchett totally does later on in the series. So The Color of Magic it's a bunch of silly, and that's fine. The book's about a wizard named Rincewind Ranswand. He's a wizard and he has a silly name, and also he's bad at being a wizard, and the other wizards don't really like being friends with him, and so they send him off to do other stuff that they don't want to do because they don't want to be around him. And this story in particular is about Rincewind meeting a guy from another part of the disc. It's really funny that the Earth is flat. It's a good joke. So Rincewind meets with a guy from out of town called Two Flower, and he's just a tourist who's on vacation, and he wants to see all of the disc. But the problem is the place where he's from has so much gold that like the poor people there are like millionaires here in Ankh-Morpork, where Rincewind is from. And so normally they're not allowed to travel because like if their gold got into the economy, it would like break everything. And so Rincewind is kind of tasked with like leading Two Flower around the world without getting in too much trouble and without getting killed, because then they'd get in trouble and probably just be killed by the other country. So it's funny hijinks. They get into trouble and they have to pay people with the money, and also Two Flower has some luggage that can walk. It's not there's not really like a reason for it. It's just there. But the luggage is like basically a character in and of itself, and helps the guys out doing stuff. I told you it's kind of weird. So basically, they just go off and have adventures, and it's Terry Pratchett's like excuse to just showcase a bunch of silly things that he thought of, and that's the story. That's pretty much it. It's really funny though, because Two Flower, he's just a regular guy on vacation, but he's like a billionaire on this side of the disc, and he's constantly trying to sell insurance to people that he meets. It's a new concept, at least on this part of the disc, and no one knows what it means, and they pronounce it wrong, insurance and stuff like that. Terry Pratchett likes to do this all the time with like a fish out of water character who's trying to explain, like a new technology to a different group of people that don't get it so much. And a lot of his books focus around like the invention of new technologies and figuring out how that works in like a magic world. Those are a lot of fun, but it's not what we're talking about this time. It's just insurance, and it's kind of played off as a gag. They do crazy stuff like get kidnapped and run into dragons, and then at the end of the book, they basically fall off the edge of the disc, but it's like for science, because people are trying to figure out what gender the giant flying space turtle is, because they don't know. I'd be kind of curious. I'd be curious about that too. Anyway, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's really lighthearted. It's pretty fun, but by far, like the character work is really the strength of all of Terry Pratchett's books, and definitely the strength of this one. Rincewind is a very interesting character. The Reject Sorcerer is cool, and I like Two Flower. He's a tourist, and so I did like this book, but there really isn't anything like super special that sets this book apart from anything else in particular. I wouldn't start here if I were you. I'd start somewhere else. But because I started here, it probably wasn't the best decision. But hey, I liked it enough to keep reading, and also I had a lot of friends that told me I should try other books. I'm glad I stuck with it, because Discworld's awesome. Terry Pratchett's great. He was a great guy, and you should read more Discworld books. I'm going to read some more books, and I'm going to talk about them on the channel, and that's pretty much it for this. It gets a 5 out of 10. It's my least favorite of all the Discworld books I've read so far, but it's not that bad. Read some Discworld books. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun if you like books, and if you like reading, if you like fantasy, and if you like laughing. Bye.